Okay, hello, welcome to week 9 of...
Say it with some gusto, Kai. You're glad to be here, aren't you, in my company?
Yeah, I suppose so. Hello, welcome to week 9 of this entity that is, whatever the fuck we're calling it now. It's great, it's cool, we're doing interesting things, we've done some stuff this week.
We have done some interesting stuff this week.
Yeah, and, exciting things have happened. But we're back, we've got a couple of reviews, we've got a couple of opinions.
Yes.
I say a couple, it's hundreds and hundreds of opinions whether you like them or not. So
strap it.
Yeah. What do we do first? What's your favourite? Actually, let's work our way.
Mate, you're taking the helm, it's all you.
Alright, okay.
The gloves are off.
So,
my hands are off the wheel.
fresh in the mind.
Yeah.
Today, we went and saw Kong.
We did.
Skull Island.
Yes.
The latest instalment in that universe, I guess.
Yeah.
So that sees a group of researchers going to mysterious Skull Island. Interesting that it's called Skull Island, seeing as no one's been there.
Yeah. Should we just call it... Well, do they call it Skull Island?
No, they specifically state that it's called Skull Island.
Oh. Because it...
Interesting, but... there is one part, a skull on the island, so maybe that's it. But the island doesn't look particularly scully.
No, not really. It's not in the shape of Gillian Anderson. Doesn't matter, let's not even tread on that.
Covers a research trip with an armed escort to this mysterious Skull Island, which is surrounded by a permanent storm to investigate
What's
geological things. And lo and behold... here be monsters.
Yeah.
And it was... What did you think?
Well, I wasn't really going in expecting much, purely because I'd seen Godzilla, like the last... however many years ago, I think 2 years ago.
Oh, I haven't
2
seen
years
it.
ago. Which had Bryan Cranston, who died 15 minutes in.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, and it didn't impress me. Because we had this discussion when we came out, is the fact that with any monster movie, in my opinion, you don't pay to go and see the people. It's a monster movie. You go and pay to see 2 or 1 and various other nasty beasties beat the living snot out of each other. In the technology we've got, in all this CGI wonder. So I wasn't really expecting much, and I'll be honest, I didn't get much back either. The cast is a lot bigger and of a higher calibre than what is delivered. So you've got...
You could potentially consider this like a stellar cast, because there's lots of stars.
Yeah, you got Tom Hiddleston as the brave tracker / explorer, who is obviously constructed and designed and looks like the hero. You've got Brie Larson as the photographer, female interest, damsel in distress, because it's set during just at the end of the Vietnam War. Like, the Americans are pulling out, and now there's a group of soldiers led by Samuel L. Jackson who's particularly concerned about going back to his world, going back to a world that isn't his, because he is a through and through soldier. I'm here for one job.
He needs a water fight.
That's
his only purpose.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's doing unless he's got someone to kill.
Exactly, and he gets one because he heads off to Skull Island to back this sort of this exploration mission
as an escort
to cover this geological sort of investigation that's cracking off. Turns out it's not a geological investigation, it's to find out if a giant gorilla lives there, and shock, in 15-20 minutes in, I nipped off to get some popcorn, but it turns out he does live there in the first 5 minutes. 2 minutes in, he's there. Obviously, our most notable comparison we can give for Kong, or King Kong as a character, most recently, is Peter Jackson's remake that he did post Lord of the Rings. That was a 3-hour film.
And you see Kong in the last hour?
No. You see him quite early on, but there's an hour-long build-up for them to get to Skull Island.
Yeah.
Find him, he beats a load of stuff up, then comes back, and then the infamous crawl up the Empire State Building.
With this, they introduce him straight away as a prelogue.
Yeah.
First things first, 2 people crash on the island, fight stops because giant fucking monkey or chimp,
Yeah.
well, gorilla. I don't know.
Whatever.
He's a giant ape.
Giant ape thing, and I just wasn't bothered. Like,
it had some entertaining bits.
Yeah, there was some elements of like. One other highlight, I suppose, is the other inhabitants besides Kong and the big beast, the nasty beastie that's on there, are some of the other animals that were there. Like, you may have seen it in the trailer. Like, there's like a water buffalo that is a buffalo that lives in the water, and it's
giant.
It's part pond.
Yeah.
And then was there ants?
We never saw the ants. There was a giant spider.
Yeah, there's a giant spider made from bamboo, which looked wicked. Like, I thought that was actually a really good idea.
Yeah, and then there was a stick insect, but it's giant, so it's a log insect.
Yeah, so there.
So he's sat on a log, and then that comes to life. And then there's these weird snake lizard things that are the antagonists of this film.
That are the most cookie cutter sort of thing. Like,
cut and paste horror monster.
Yeah, just looks like a snake, but it isn't a snake, and it's enough for Kong to go, oh shit.
They haven't even, like, I think I'd been more impressed with them as baddies in this if they'd made them, obviously, you know, this is all relative, but realistic.
Yeah.
So Kong is relatively realistic for an ape, like the proportions are there.
Yeah.
I mean, there is relative expertise in doing CGI apes, what with all the Planet of the Apes films, previous Kong films, you know, that is relatively well done. But they didn't look like anything at all. Their faces were kind of dinosaur lizardy, but then they had like a weird snake tail that started at their waist.
They were they were snakes with
two
arms.
Tripods.
Yeah. It was just, you know, we're going to eventually get into the summer blocks period, and I'm glad this hasn't come too close to it, because it's just nothing, there was nothing in there to compel me to go, God, thank God, like, they're making a massive monster universe and we're going to see Godzilla face off against King Kong and Mothra and all the other, like, animals.
Insane.
And shit. Yeah, I just didn't care. Like, there was some great visuals in it, whilst the big bad of the film is a bit nothing, like, there's no sort of interest in that creature at all. Kong sort of lacked a bit, didn't really carry that much emotion in terms of a character where you're like, oh, he's just the misunderstood beast, and, you know...
He wasn't, he was just a big monkey.
He was just a big monkey that got to punch stuff. There was some great imagery in it. Like, I loved the sort of the shots as the helicopters were coming in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It was just there. And it was like, what up?
I really enjoyed the first bit of the film where they're recruiting the helicopter guys and then they're first flying into the island.
Yeah.
It all felt like a Vietnam film.
Yeah.
They all had that kind of, like, America.
Yeah, they were laying it on thick.
And it like I said this just after we came out of the film, and they were definitely pulling a lot of Apocalypse Now strings.
Not only that, like, you've got certain characters where it was like, right, so you're the trigger happy one, you're the one who doesn't want to be there, you're the one who wants to go home to his mum, you're the one who's just there to fight and is a weapon, and, you know, it hit those, which is an interesting idea to work in King Kong, but just didn't get pushed enough. Like we said, I couldn't care less about any particular member of that team at all. Like,
one guy, actually. There was one guy.
Who was that?
Chapman.
Yeah, Chapman, who was Toby Kebbell, who also did the motion capture for Kong. And that was one shot, actually, that I really loved. So when he was sat on the beach by himself, and he went to hide from Kong, and he'd just destroyed, like, the squadron of helicopters, and Kong just sat down and, like, washed his hand. He, like, brought his hand up, and he just looked like a waterfall coming off his hand. And then randomly just got attacked by a squid and killed the squid, and then just sat there chewing on it for a bit and then stood up and fucked off. And it looked really good, just for the scale and the scope of it, and we saw it in IMAX, and for some occasions it did look good. But it's just like Godzilla. I didn't care. Like, if I never see that film again, I will not be bothered. And the fact that they are going, oh, there are more monsters out there, Kong's not the only king, there are other creatures amongst on the world, and it's like, wicked. Another 2 hours of just buildings falling, people running, and someone at the end of the day slamming the chest and winning.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine there to be a victor out of Godzilla versus King Kong, which is 100% what's going to happen. Will they join forces and fight another evil? Most likely. Will a government official call an airstrike and Kong get pissed off, and then they find out, oh, you know what, he's not actually that bad in the end. Should we leave it?
Oh, but he's dead because you've killed him. And we killed him because humanity does that stuff.
They're definitely trying to jump on the Marvel bandwagon of like joint franchises and expanded
cinematic universes.
Yeah,
and it's just fuck off.
Yeah, close the door. I don't care.
Although we did say like there was the redeeming factor of this film was John C. Reilly, and
yes, massively.
I really enjoyed, and amazing visual aspect was the lost tribe of Skull Island.
Yeah,
they were fucking amazing, with the the colours and lines. That was a beautiful bit of
just that section. I think they were very heavy on the visuals, but then when you look closer, you're like, oh, there is actually nothing there.
Yeah,
because it was, you made the joke that none of them talked, and they were that cliche tribe of just looked threatening but weren't.
It wasn't even that it wasn't even supposed to be that they were threatening. I just thought they were very interesting as a visual, they're really interesting. The way their history had worked, and with those the iconography on the walls.
That looked good.
It was cool, but that wasn't it didn't have any features for it.
Where was the elder to just be like, look, he's all right, leave him alone? Well, I suppose that was John C. Reilly, who, like you said, was just brilliant in it. He was a World War II down pilot who'd been there for 10 years, and he was a bit 20, sorry. He was a bit loopy. And did John C. Reilly as John C. Reilly does. Like, if Step Brothers was set on Skull Island, there's your film. Go see that. But yeah, it was just a bit limited. Tom Hiddleston was just phoning it in, Brie Larson phoning it in, Samuel L. Jackson being his Samuel L. Jacksonist. Had a brand new line of, rather than that comment, was bitch please, which we all thought was great. But
it's probably the best moment of the entire film.
Yeah. But when you've got a 50-foot gorilla fighting monsters, you think that surely would get the attention most, and it doesn't really. What would you give it out of 5?
I'd 3 at a push.
That's what I mean. I'm not willing to give it that extra star. Do you know what I mean?
So
I'd say 2.
Yeah. Let's settle on 2, because
if you're reluctant to go 3, why should it get it? Do you know what I mean?
I think this is one of those films I would potentially watch it hungover.
Yeah.
It's noise and colours.
Yeah. And just trying to recalibrate your senses. That's what.
And
you
if
watch.
At one point I sort of zone in and John C. Reilly says something funny, or Samuel L. Jackson says "bitch please," it's probably a winner.
Yeah. But apart from that, it doesn't it doesn't excite me for what they've got planned at all. I'd love to see what the box office is like, because Logan's still absolutely storming it. So it'll be interesting to see over this weekend where that stands. I don't think it's going to do well.
No. At all.
I think there's plenty of other man versus beast films, even elements of aliens in there. Fucking hell, stick that on. I'd rather watch that again for the billionth time.
Well, I compared it to Pacific Rim.
Yes,
and I'd rather watch Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a second one, and I'd probably rather see that
because
that knows what it is. And says, "There you go.
Yeah.
You want to see monsters fight robots? Here's monsters fighting robots.
Yeah,
Off you go. Carry the fuck on."
I think it's a rare thing though to succeed in finding that balance. Whereas, like you say, so with Pacific Rim, it's a film that knows what it is, and it hasn't got time for character development because that's not the main attraction. But having said that, I think one film that stands out that covers this ground so well, it's quite old, but Super 8, J.J. Abrams' Super 8, where this town is invaded by this large alien monster, and there isn't a lot of attention on the creature itself. It's the aftermath of what's happening and how the town are dealing with it. Stranger Things, it's like Stranger Things, but with a higher budget. And
so what? Because my thing with monster films is you either need to see a shitload of two monsters duking it out, or no monster.
Yeah.
A lot of suspense, a lot of things happening, but no actual monster. Because Cloverfield,
Jaws.
Yeah. So those if both of those films, if you showed the monster in the first 2 minutes,
you've lost me.
the film
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, Jurassic Park.
You know, it's weird. You think of like when you think of Jurassic Park, there are certain moments where you think of more that like you always think of. I always think of the water in the cup.
Yeah.
Like that is build up, and that there was never that moment. The helicopter's literally flying, and Kong's like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
It was just
tree.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, is this going to be slowly?
You don't see it. You literally just see projectiles thrown at it.
But no.
No, it's just like, come on.
So they throw a tree, take down the first helicopter, and then his hand's in for the second, and then he stood there. Okay.
Mm.
And it's like, oh, okay, fine. And he destroys most of them in the first like 5 minutes of them being on the island. So it's like, oh, okay, so what are you going to do for the next hour?
Let's just walk from point A to point B and hope nothing kills us.
Mm.
But it gonna.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2 stars from us. I would avoid. If you haven't seen Logan yet, go. If you have seen Logan, go again because you know you want to.
Yeah, if you're gonna watch 2 films this week, see Logan twice.